I know. I'm about 2 weeks late to this one, and to level with you guys, there's not a whole lot that I can say about the new Spider-Man 2 game that hasn't been said already. However, as a huge fan of not only Spider-Man as a character and franchise, but of the Insomniac games as well, I felt I wanted to discuss quickly the things I did and did not like. As usual, I am no critic, and I will never pretend that I can do better than any professional developer, but I do have some thoughts regarding my experience on the game. I have platinum both Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales on the PlayStation 5, and having played both of those games very recently right before this one came out, I feel like I can easily see the similarities and differences pretty fast. Also, just to mention it, I did platinum Spider-Man 2 on the hardest difficulty as well in order to give my full thoughts on it. Brief caution. There will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. Click off now if that will bother you, because I feel like I have to talk about them in order to give my full thoughts. Just swing right in. Let's discuss characters and story. First off, no voice actor or body actor did a poor job at all. Everyone killed it in this game. Peter was fine here, still struggling over the loss of Aunt May, as it was a big point for his character arc in this game. He's looking to settle down and actually create a profession for steady income, which was an outside of Spider-Man role problem he was dealing with in this game, which I found interesting, as we know he was kicked out of his apartment and was given Aunt May's old house. So it was fun to see this story beat we're all so familiar with to be brought up every now and again. Miles, on the other hand, felt a bit sidelined in this game. He had some stuff going on, but it was mainly with Mysterio and the Mysteriums, as well as Martin Lee and their resolution after Martin Lee killed his dad in the first game. Now, he does have some encounters with Kraven and Venom, which are key and very crucial to the overall plot. So it's not that he was completely just non-existent from the main story. It just felt like he wasn't given as much as I hoped he would get this game, but maybe that's just me. But I did want to I did want to briefly mention that as well. Tombstone and Martin Lee are in this game, but they're actually good guys now, or are attempting to be, which I absolutely love to see. This is what makes them far more profound characters than just evil man, stay evil man. It just adds more depth. MJ, she's fine here. Her missions were not the best, but they were far better than the original game's MJ missions, so I appreciate the great deal of better quality that went into those. Her missions are basically just to make the game a third-person shooter, but her character and her want to find a better meaning in life outside of her job at the Bugle was cool, so she becomes self-employed after you fight her as Spider-Man when she becomes a part of the Venom symbiote in the form of Scream. She makes her own podcast, so she has a nice little arc and ending. So yeah, overall she's fine. Harry, so this was actually kind of a big one. We all knew he was going to be in the game, as it was hinted at the ending of the first game, which basically this game picks up right after that point. But anyway, as we all expected and knew, he'd be in the game, but he's done very well here. It didn't feel shoehorned almost at all for me personally, and I appreciated the new approach to Harry as a real character, rather than how we met him in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie. James Franco's Harry from the Sam Raimi trilogy isn't bad either. He's just a bit more whiny, but I felt like this is the Harry we are familiar with, yet it's still very fresh to meet and watch him develop as the story unfolds. Norman in this game feels more like a character looking to protect his son no matter the cost. And that becomes very evident at the end of the game when he introduces the word G-Serum, which sets up either him or Harry to be the Green Goblin in Spider-Man 3. I feel like it would be a smarter decision for Insomniac to make a large DLC expansion for Spider-Man 2 for that villain's story, rather than making a whole new game. That's just me, though. But regardless, Norman is good here. And we move on to the big dog, Venom. I don't even know where to begin on Venom, to be honest with you. This is the most accurate version of Venom I think we have ever seen in any Spider-Man media aside from the comics. He's mean, relentless, brutal, terrifying, and seemingly unstoppable. He's looking to conquer New York as his new stomping grounds, and it gets dark on how he goes about it, by infecting the whole city or doing his absolute best to achieve that goal. He was very, very, very cool here, and a fantastic villain. He truly overshadowed Kraven in almost every department, without question. Now, Craven is really cool. I enjoyed getting to know him and what he was capable of, especially when you fight him as Venom. And yes, you get to play as Harry's perfected symbiosis form of Venom, which is full form Venom. And God, that was a mouthful. But it was extremely badass and ultimately and violently brutal to anyone that stood in your way when you played as him. It was awesome, but Venom was the true highlight villain here. There is no question about it. Now let's get into some gameplay. Basically, it's just a better overall version of both previous Spider-Man games. I mean, seriously, that's what it is. I think that's what we all expected. The core web swinging is the best in any Spider-Man game ever, and I will not change my opinion on that at all. I didn't even fast travel in the game, not even once, due to the sheer amount of traversal options like the mid-air boosts and launches, the web wings, and other options like the slingshot and loop-de-loop. However, I could go ahead and mention all of them, but we'd be here longer than we needed to be. It's just simple fun when going all the way from the financial district to Astoria in Harlem, and everything in between. This was absolute peak Spider-Man traversal, and you cannot change my mind. Go ahead and try. The combat is as punchy and responsive as ever before. The new abilities when pushing R1 and L1 are great, and I appreciate the God of War-like addition to the combat. And before you cook me in the comments, the abilities are triggered and used basically the same way as the new God of War games, which is not a bad thing at all. However, more often than not, I did feel like I spammed them during combat and then waited for a charge when smashing circle and square. So they didn't feel nearly as tactical or complex as I hoped they would be, or if that's what they were intended to be. But still though, this isn't a bad thing. I just figured I'd mention my experience with it. However, my big gripes here are that there are not even close to the same amount of gadgets from the first game, which I felt were more underutilized in this one than the first. Personally, the web bomb and trip mine web were both sorely missed. I felt I used those all the time and they would have made great additions in this game, but they wanted to try some new gadgets, which I can totally respect. I just felt they could have used at least 2 to 3 returning ones with maybe a more reprised rendition on their original counterparts. In addition, there are no suit abilities at all. Whereas in the first game, each suit that you would unlock would have a specifically catered ability that came with each new suit. It made it more unique to each of those suits and each of the suits' lore. So therefore, the new suits offered in the game are just cosmetic only, and in fact provide more options cosmetically, as you can now unlock not only the original suit style, but 3 more as well if you spend some extra tech parts to unlock each new rendition. So there is an upside to the look of your Spider-Man, but in my opinion, there is a downgrade to the way he can uniquely play with the large assortment of gadgets and suit abilities. Also, now this isn't a big deal, but stealth in this game sucks. And it doesn't suck because it's broken or poorly made, but once you unlock the web line, the AI is so dumb that you can hook all of them up to the web line without having to go for takedowns or any other quick thinking strategies, as in the original game where you had to do that. I do love the web line. I think it is an awesome addition to the game, just maybe if it wasn't so OP. I'd appreciate it more and use it more strategically rather than a cheap stealth tactic. Regardless, it's fine, and you don't have to play that way, it just makes stealth very unfun is all. Lastly, the side quests, while not all of them were bad, a few of them were, and most of them were just flat out mediocre. For example, some of the bad ones were the Emily May Foundation quests. I did not enjoy those very much, almost at all. The Yuri missions were fine, as they were more like secondary missions rather than side quests. The mediocre missions would have to be the Spider-Bots and the Uncle Aaron missions. The Uncle Aaron missions lead to a cool new invisibility melee upgrade for Miles, while the Spider-Bots had a cool Easter egg connecting this game to the Spider-Verse story going on in the movies right now. However, that's about it. The Mysteriums and the Spider-Man specific side stories were decent, and I'd argue some of them were even great as well. But at the worst, they were a bit below mediocre, and at their best, they were great. I just felt with all of these years of dev time, they would have put a bit more effort into all of it as a whole, which is the same problem the PS4 Spider-Man game also suffers from, in my opinion. However, I will finish my gameplay discussion there. that's kind of all my gripes. Overall, everything that I didn't mention, I probably loved it, and that's why I didn't mention it. Because most of it's fine. It's just those gripes that I had. Moving on to graphics. I'm going to be quick on this topic because I don't need to linger on it. I have no complaints whatsoever, had no fidelity or graphical issues whatsoever, and this is without a doubt, maybe aside from God of War Ragnarok, the most beautiful game on PlayStation 5. The amount of things in the world and the immense render distance while also focusing on everything within vicinity of and even Spider-Man himself is absolutely mind-blowing. Insomniac truly made a spectacle and is really using the PS5's power, and it shows. The ray tracing effects alone are so above and beyond, I commend them highly for their attention to detail. When it comes to windows, metal, water, rarely do you see a game use ray tracing this immaculately. Bravo. Wrapping up, my final thoughts. While not a perfect game, as some elements from the previous two I actually prefer more, as previously discussed, like suitabilities and gadgets, it is without a doubt still a fantastic game. I would have to rate this in between hot and very warm, which is my equivalent of an 8.5. It was really hard for me to choose hot, and it was equally hard for me to choose very warm, so I figured right in between would be perfect. I know, it's a cop-out. I really enjoyed this game very much and had an amazing time. I highly recommend going out of your way to get this one, and I think you need to if you're a Spider-Man fan. It is that good. Don't let the Xbox fanboys ruin your motivation to get this game, which says something coming from my Halo-loving ass. Trust me. I keep hearing it's a 1.5 or a copy-paste, and while in some areas I would agree, in most of the areas it's not, and you know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is exactly what they did, but in the best possible way. Just play it and curate your own opinion as I do when making these climate reports. However, that'll wrap up my overall thoughts on Spider-Man 2. I hope y'all enjoyed the climate report as usual. I will catch you guys in the next video. Leave comments down below on what you liked, what you didn't like, what did you agree with, what did you disagree with. Love to talk to you. So yeah, leave me some feedback below on what you thought of my review, or opinions, whatever you want to call it, because I am no critic. Also, I just want to briefly mention I am extremely late on my Zelda climate report, like 3 to 4 months late, but expect that here at some point soon. It is on its way. Anyway, have a great day, everyone. Peace out.